Hi everybody, it's Dr. K. This is my second video for our snow day. This is on the developmental sequence of creative movement. So get out the next handout that I emailed you. Looks something like this, the developmental sequence of creative movement and dance. This is going to be on our test next week, big time. So you really need to listen so I can explain this to you and follow along. You'll see on the handout that there's a place to add your own notes as you listen over on the side. And also on the back of it, there's a place to record some definitions of some creative movement terms that you may or may not know. So take a look at it. What you need to know for the test is on the side of the page, you'll see the developmental levels, and they're numbered 1 through 5. You need to know the names of each of these, and you need to know the order that they come in. You're not going to have to write them out in any way, but you do need to recognize them. So I may say something like imagery comes after, and then I will list all the other 4 steps. The order that they come in is actually quite important and something that I wanted to stress with you. Now, as you know, I've owned my own music studio for 15 years before I worked at Hudson Valley, and I used to get a lot of moms calling me, asking me if I did creative movement classes for children. I did as part of the kinder music curriculum. I included movement in it. And I kind of called the kids that I got into this program my sort of the dance school rejects, that they were having a terrible time with the dance instruction and they really needed something that was much more creative for them. And part of the problem was that I think the dance schools focus so much on choreography. And if you look at your list here, you'll see that choreography is number 5. It's the last step. And if you just start with nothing but that, you're going to have trouble. I was at a child care center going up to observe one of my student teachers one time, and she was in their creative movement room doing observing her study child who was getting dance lessons. That the school actually hired a dance school to come in and give dance lessons during the day, which was kind of nice for the parents, didn't have to do it after work. But the woman who was teaching this class clearly did not know early childhood. It was the most stressful 20 minutes of my life sitting there watching her yell at them and make them do this same dance step over and over and over. And of course, they couldn't do it. It was way over their head. And my student told me that they did this every week. What they were doing is pieces and pieces of this big choreography that they were going to put all together at the end. And it was very unsuccessful. This just doesn't work. And mainly because she's starting with step 5 and ignoring the first 4 steps that you really need to be successful. So the order that we introduce movement to children is actually very important. So let's look at these and we'll go over it very quickly and definitely study it for the test. It will really be probably about 40 points worth of the test next week, so make sure you review this. So looking at your developmental levels, you see the first one is called expressive movement centered on self. And quite frankly, simply, this one is you put the music on and you let the children move however it makes them feel. So if I put on really fast music, they're going to run around really fast. If I slow the music down, they're going to slow down. I never use the word fast or slow, but they will respond with their bodies to what they are actually hearing in the music. So this comes first. You let them move however it makes them feel, and you don't demonstrate. You just are sort of an observer giving the directions, and then they go off and do the movement on their own. Now, this stage develops 2 things, 2 terms you may not know, locomotor and axial movements. And if you flip your paper over to the back, there's a place to record that. Locomotor are movements where you go someplace, like jumping, skipping, running, walking, hopping. I'm going from here to from A to B. I'm moving my body in space. All right, so write that down. Locomotor movement is moving your body in space. And give yourself some examples like walking, running, skipping, jogging, anything like that where I go from A to B is locomotor. Think of the word loco of like a locomotive train. It goes down the tracks. It goes someplace. All right, so that's locomotor movements. Axial movements are the opposite. They're also called non-locomotor movements. And those are movements that are in place, like you're anchored to the floor. So something like swaying or, moving like this, or head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm using all these movements as I do it. Those are axial. Anything with the hands, would be axial. So when you put the music on, you're getting a lot of locomotor movements, but you could also be getting axial if you're doing something in place. All right, so this stage works well on that. It also works on tempo, and there's one more word that you can define, and tempo is rate of speed. So write that down, rate of speed. It's how fast or slow the music goes. So this is a good way to work on that concept as well. Now the next stage is imagery, and this is my favorite stage of all. This is where you give the children an image and then they act it out. Like I talked about in my last video, be a tree and the children will become a tree. Or ring the church bell, you grab the rope and you pull it down and you're acting that out. And one of the things that imagery works on are the 3 levels of space. So there's the high space way up here, there's this middle space here, and then there's a low space way down low, like touching your toes or being on the floor. And so it's kind of what I call sneaky teaching. They don't even realize that they're learning that. Like ringing the church bell. I've got them up here and they're bringing it all the way down to the floor and then they're bringing it all the way back up. Or I'll say, dig a big hole with a shovel. And now they got the shovel and now they're way down on the floor and then they're coming way up and they're bringing it up here. They have no clue that they're actually using the 3 levels of space. All they think is they're digging a hole and they're totally happy doing that. But in my lesson plans, my goal will be the children will experience the 3 levels of space. And I use imagery as a way to teach that. So that's how that works. And then there's something called floor crossings, which you can flip to the back to define as well. Floor crossings are literally when you have the children move from one side of the room to the other side of the room. And you can do it in multiple ways. You can have one child go across, you can have a group of children go, or you can have the whole class go. And they're very fun to do using the imagery with. So I may have the class move across the room like their favorite animal. Or I may have them, to use the low level, have them slither across the room like a snake on their bellies, or crawl like a crab, or run and jump to try to hit a drum or something like that to use the high level. But you're basically moving from one side of the room to the other using an image to act it out. And when we meet again next week, I'm going to do the lab with you before we do the test so that you can experience some of this yourself and it will make more sense. So we'll do some floor crossings too. So that's imagery. And then the next stage, part 3, comes in 2 parts. It's called responding to beat. So the first thing we need to know is, what is a beat? The beat is the underlying pulse of the music. It uses a lot of heart words. It's like your heartbeat. It's constant and steady. Or your pulse. It's just this constant thing. So I'm clapping the beat. It's just constant and steady as I go. Versus rhythm, which is the next one down. A rhythm is a pattern. So I'm going to clap out the rhythm pattern to Mary Had a Little Lamb. See if you recognize it. All right, so that's the rhythm of a song. The beat would be just constant. Now I could do the 2 together. I mean, I'll try to do it up here so you can actually see it. This hand is going to keep the beat. So it's just kind of clomping along, beat, beat. This hand is going to do Mary Had a Little Lamb rhythm against the beat. So here it goes. I don't know if you could hear that or not, but it's one hand's keeping the beat, one hand's doing the rhythm. So beat and rhythm go together. Now, before you can do rhythm, you need to do beat first. So that's our first step, responding to beat, and there's 2 parts of it. A is the teacher responds to the child's beat. So I'll get my drum out and I'll say, okay, everybody, let's march to the drum. And then I look at their feet and their feet are going like, they're not marching to the beat at all. They're doing whatever. And so I'm going to change my drum so it actually matches their feet. So they hear the drum and their foot hitting the ground at the same time. They think they're marching to the beat, but they're not. I'm playing the drum to their beat. So you do that for a while. It could take like a couple of years. I mean, when I taught in Bethlehem, I taught elementary music K through 5. I started beat in kindergarten, and I was still working on beat with fifth graders. And there were still some fifth graders who could not keep a beat. So it's something that can really take a long time to develop, but beat is essential. So that's part A, where the teacher follows the child's beat. And then B is when the child follows my beat. So that's on that day where I say, okay, everybody march to the drum. And their feet actually do it. They actually march to the drum. And then you're like, yay, go to a party, because they actually can keep a beat now, which means they really are following my beat now, and I'm not following their beat. So once they can keep the beat, next we're going to do is we're going to move in relation to the beat. And what I always do with my kids on this stage is I would have their feet move in rhythm patterns. So now we're getting back to rhythm, which is like Mary had a little lamb. That's the rhythm of that. And I would do like hot cross buns was the classic one I used to have them do. So their feet would actually go hot cross buns, and they hold it hot cross buns, and then they'd go faster. 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. So now our feet are moving to the rhythm pattern. They're not moving to the beat anymore. And then once they can do that, they're ready for choreography or dance, because that's what choreography is. It's a structured sequence of steps to music. So everybody does the same steps at the same time, right? Think of any dance that you've done that's been choreographed, even silly things like the chicken dance or the Macarena. Those are choreographed because everyone is doing the steps in the same time. Now think about that hot cross buns. I'm going to go do it. So let me move my chair so you can see. Hopefully you can still hear me. My feet are now going to move to hot cross buns. So here's the steps. Hot cross buns. Hot cross buns. 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. That's the moving into the rhythm. Now I can take that and I can turn that into a dance, right? Not the best one, but some kind of a dance. So here it goes. Ready? Hot cross buns. Hot cross buns. 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. Hey! Right? So that's choreography now. Now my feet are moving in rhythm patterns with everybody else. And we all have to keep a beat together for it to work. So there you go. Those are the 5 steps. Now, how are you going to remember these? Expressive movement, imagery, responding to beat, moving in relation to beat, and choreography and dance. Well, one of my students made up this handy, I'm going to move it up to here, this handy little saying that she came up with that says, everybody is remembering my dance. And the first letter of each word goes along. So everybody goes along with expressive movement. Is for imagery. Remembering is for responding to beat. My is for moving in relation to beat. And dance is for dance. So hopefully that will help you remember the order of the 5 stages. Everybody is remembering my dance. Write it down. And that will help you with the test when I ask you which should come first, which comes second, what should be last. Choreography, always last. Now, I did this with my kinder music kids. Took a whole year. I did all of these things, and by May and June, I did choreography with them, and it didn't take me all year to teach them a dance. It took me 1 day, and they did it great because they had those first 4 steps, all these experiences with moving their body in space, doing all this imagery, using all the levels, being able to keep a beat, being able to move against the beat, and then finally doing dance was a piece of cake. It shouldn't be torture for children like I see, unfortunately, in some of these places. So it's important for you to know what is the order so that you introduce it the right way as well for children. And then when I see you next week, we're going to start right out with the lab doing all of this so that you experience it yourself. We'll do a quick review and then we'll do the test. But please study it now so when you walk in, you're familiar with all of this. And then when we do it, it'll make sense. All right? So enjoy the rest of your week. And don't forget also next week, sound box. Make sure that you have at least 12 actual items in it. I'm going to be counting them, not 12 sounds, 12 actual items. And your instrument can be one of them. So you've got your instrument plus 11 other things. Make it attractive, make it sturdy, make it safe. Put it in some kind of a box, decorate it, make it look nice for the kids. This is a big project, so don't wait until Tuesday night to do it. There is a late penalty if it's not on time. So I will see you all next week. Have a great week, and I'll see you then. Bye.